that power to your wings. And when it came to role models, talking about it, who was yours? Because you said at that time there were not too many mentors around you. So who was your role model in the workspace, in the space that you were operating? Were there pieces you were picking from everyone around you, noticing that, okay, this lesson from this person I can pick? How did you kind of, and I'm sure you must have had your lows as well, as much as the highs. What was it that boosted you, like during your lowest lows, to push you up? Because after a point, it's not the external world. Like you said some time back, it's who you are internally that kind of molds you and helps you bloom. So how did you nurture yourself, take care of yourself, become your best friend, look around for that advice? Did you find one go-to person? Did you model yourself around any one or few people? How did you shape up yourself when you didn't have one person to look at?
Such an interesting question, Rashmi. And yes, I think in the absence of having that one mentor or one go-to person, in a way it was nice because then I could cherry pick.
Yes.
So I could see that I love the confidence with which this person graces the stage. Or I absolutely like the way she always makes it a point to give feedback because that shows that she cares for someone's improvement genuinely. And she's been observant about looking at what's been, positive and what needs improvement. I looked at people, the most common people, and I have had, again, the privilege of working with women across countries, and many of them moving, or, the business model that I worked with was social selling or direct selling for many, many years as well. And that was a time when a lot of women didn't have the recourse to go and take full-time jobs, either because the jobs weren't available or they weren't qualified or there was nobody to look after the family if they worked outside of home. A lot of these women at that time got the ability to start their own micro-entrepreneurships thanks to the model, the direct selling model that the companies I worked for, like Oriflame or like Tupperware, these brought into the country. And I think I learned so much from these thousands of women. So I had actually not one, but thousands and thousands of these role models. Because if you see the struggle a woman goes through in each and every phase of her life, and especially the one who realizes that she's worth more than the deal she's been served all this while. And the day that awakening comes, she doesn't want to look back. But people around her are not happy. They are scared in this new avatar this woman decides to take. And just observing how this woman changes form and shape and rediscovers herself. And once she does that, she becomes powerful, she becomes enigmatic, she becomes someone who's a leader. And she's someone who never thought she was worth anything. So from being someone's daughter and sister to becoming someone's wife and then to becoming someone's mother, I mean, that's what her life would have been had this idea of entrepreneurship not entered her life. And that changed everything for her. So I've seen those transformations, and I think each one of those women till today have been my role models. Because for every time I wanted to give up with all my privilege, with all my support, I had this one woman coming and crying in my office about how her husband beat her up last night. She's almost going to be thrown out because people are so scared. She started making her own money and everybody's insecure, but her children are with her and they want to see her not give up. Every time I heard those stories, I said, how can I be thinking about my misery or who's done what or said what to me? If she's ready to put in an honest fight, who am I not to stand shoulder and shoulder with her to make sure that she wins, right? So each one of those women in their own way. I went to Mexico once, so we did this, whole training there, and we were sharing best practices between India and Mexico. And I sat there with the women, and it was unbelievable. They had exactly the same stories, the same reasons to smile and cry and feel angry and feel excited as their Indian counterparts. I went to Europe to do a similar meeting, the US. And every time I started sitting down with people I thought would, have very different stories or contexts or viewpoints because they belong to a developed world or they had grown with education. They lived in these big homes and drove big cars. I mean, that showed me the reality that each one has their own struggles. You can't compare. Each journey is different. Each story is different. But what can I learn from there? There were amazing stories, I saw. And also I learned the fact that human beings are the same universally. The outer self might look different. The packaging might come different, but I think left to our own devices, intrinsically, we are all the same. And that made me feel like I belong to the world. I don't belong to the small home or the city or even a country. And that, I think, gave me a lot of courage that, I can show up anywhere. And that gave me confidence and the ability to stand in, a conference with 5,000 people in Rome in a stadium and talk to them and address them without fear. 60 languages we were getting translated in simultaneously. And it was an experience of a lifetime. But I wasn't scared because it was as if I'm talking to my family, right? So if we really start to embrace and learn from everybody, I think there are role models in plenty. They don't have to come in corporate avatars wearing snazzy clothes. They can be our everyday people. And again, I have to mention my mother and father. I think both of them always came in and their way of giving advice or giving me solace was always stories and anecdotes from their life.